Mother, man.
You're listening to Brutal Rewind, brought to you by your friends at Murder Metal Mayhem. We take a topic we've already covered, hog-tie it, put a ball gag in its mouth, and throw it head first into a wood chipper. What comes out is our new twist on the subject. Brutal Rewind is exclusively brought to you by Shaker's Cigar Bar in Milwaukee, the most haunted bar in the United States. Book a ghost tour at Shaker's today at hangmantours.com. And now, here's your Brutal Rewind. Doing a fucking brutal rewind.
Back it up.
Playing a little Nuns Have No Fun, so we must be talking about some Danish black / old school metal band. We got CK, the great metal motherfucker, here with us since we're doing this brutal rewind on metal.
Yo, what's up?
What is up? I think I'm still drunk from last night, so we'll get through this, man. It's a Saturday, not a Tuesday.
Yeah, it's actually a Sunday.
Oh,
yeah,
that's my life. That's how fucked up my life
That's
is.
how fucked up you are. And I woke up to a basement full of water, so this has been a hell of a day. But we show that we are just that fucking committed to this shit. We're just going to keep fucking rolling on. And we're going to do this brutal rewind, CK. We've talked about this. We thought it was worthy of a revisit, I should say, because of the death of the original bass player. So who are we going to talk about in this short and condensed podcast today?
Well, we're going to talk about Mercyful Fate, King Diamond, and the late, great Timmy Hansen, or Timmy Grabber Hansen, as he used to be called.
Right. Very cool. That's awesome, man.
And just to give everybody, if you haven't heard the original podcast of the original segment we did, like Pete said, Mercyful Fate was a Danish metal band, probably the first. One of the few only bands who came out in that time in 81, 82, 83.
Was it like a cherry cheese Danish? Because I like those.
Those are good. And those cookies that come in the tin.
Yeah.
At Christmas, those Danish cookies, those are the fucking bomb, man. The butter cookies or whatever.
Except when they get stale.
Yeah, right.
So they were the only metal band at that time coming out of Denmark. Not only were they a Danish metal band, but what they were considered a satanic band because obviously the early days, most of it was revolved around Satanism.
Right.
Hail Satan.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what kind of drew me into them, that Don't Break the Oath cover with the devil pointing from the flames. I mean, as a kid, that was like, whoa, what the hell's that? That looks pretty badass,
That looks like my parents ain't going to like that.
Yeah.
I want it.
Totally. Song titles, Welcome Princess of Hell, Come to the Sabbath. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is definitely something my parents wouldn't like. So, yeah, that draws, in that satanic panic era, CK. And
see,
Chris
that's not what, it kind of drew me to the band. Well, but what really drew me was the music. And King's vocals, because he had the falsetto, and nobody was doing that in metal at the time.
No, I didn't like it at first. It took me a couple of weeks of listening to it. I loved the music, though. And, we talk about Tim Hansen, and, as a bass player, he was hugely influential on me because when I first started listening to those guys was when I first started to play bass. So he was one of my early influences because he was so good, and he did some really cool licks in amongst the other stuff that was going on.
That's what she said.
That's right. So I loved it. I loved it.
I think him and Kim Royce were a very underrated rhythm section.
Agreed.
Kim Royce, obviously the drummer. Michael Denner, Hank Sherman, twin lead guitars. Obviously King Diamond that rounded out the Mercyful Fate. They were around for a little while. They had the Nuns Have No Fun EP that came out in '82, I believe, on a very obscure label called Ravon Records.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was almost impossible to find. Then they came out with the full-length Melissa. Very, very dark album. Heavy, progressive. Obviously, with the epic Satan's Fall, the 11-minute epic song.
Amazing.
On that, with and all through that, Tim Hansen rips it up. Though his bass lines are felt all throughout that album and Don't Break the Oath. His presence was definitely felt in the band, and he put his signature on the music that kind of knew was him. Eventually, Mercyful Fate broke up. It was Hank Sherman decided that he wanted to do more commercial stuff. King Diamond refused. And basically three-fifths of Mercyful Fate went on to form King Diamond Band. Obviously, it was King Diamond, Michael Denner, and Tim Hansen, along with Andy LaRocque and Mickey D on drums. And basically what they did is they took what started in Mercyful Fate with less of a satanic feel, but more of a thematic, conceptual feel, storytelling feel of songs and albums.
It's like a movie through sound.
What'd you say, Chris?
I said it's like a movie, but it's only sound, no visuals.
Exactly.
Yeah, CK, speaking of that, I've got a clip here of Black Horseman, which is, of course, from the Abigail album. And like you were saying, he's really creating a feel and telling stories with the music, which, to my understanding, had never been done before in metal. I know other types of music have done it, and of course Queensryche did it with Operation Mindcrime.
And that was after King Diamond.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. I know there's been some, but I would say it certainly in extreme music, he would have been the first that I was aware of to ever do anything like tell a story.
Definitely. And the first album was kind of a mixture between the first half was a conceptual part, and then the second half was just a collection of songs.
Right.
Fatal Portrait.
Yep.
Again, Timmy Hansen and Mickey D formed an awesome rhythm section.
Yeah, I agree. Let's take a quick listen to this. I got about a minute clip of the Black Horseman. If people are not aware of some of this stuff, I want them to be able to hear it. So hang on one second. Let's check this out. Love fucking Abigail and that clip, CK Black Horseman, just really good stuff. I remember seeing him do it live. It was so amazing, and just love the storytelling aspect of this. And Chris, I mean, someone that's not as familiar with this stuff like we are, I mean, you could certainly appreciate the creepy story element of it.
I totally get it. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm not a fan of King Diamond's vocals at all.
Right.
But musically,
it's either you love or hate him. There's no in between.
Right.
With them.
Yeah, I am not a fan, but like musically, like, and the storytelling aspect of it is fucking awesome as fuck. Dude.
Oh, yeah. That's what I was saying. I know you're not into that kind of thing, but yeah, you just got to appreciate the fucking talent of doing the story,
100%,
setting it to music, and then just putting a hell of a performance on. So,
I mean, obviously Abigail being the second album and then the first full concept album that King did. Tim was obviously a part of that. God, I can't remember if with them. I think he was still with the band.
he was, but I think he recorded.
No, actually, he wasn't.
Or was Hal Patino?
Hal Patino was the bass player.
Yeah.
So, obviously after that, Tim Hansen left.
Now he left because he had, wasn't it with something with his kids? He was,
I believe he was, just the touring aspect was taking too much on him.
Yeah, I thought he had like a young family or at least a child or two, and he just really couldn't be there. Almost the very similar situation to Joe DeBias and Fate's Warning, who had to leave for the same type of reason. I think that's how it was with Tim Hansen, is he wasn't able to because of his children, or child.
Plus, you're not making a ton of money.
Right.
Now
you got to get a haircut and get a real job.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But King put out a bunch of albums after that. He put out them. He put out the part 2 of them, which is called Conspiracy. The Eye, The Spider's Lullaby, The Graveyard. Kind of after Conspiracy, the to me, it was like a give or take as far as like some of the albums were good, some of the albums were
Yeah, I thought so too. The quality of the recording slipped some too when he left Roadrunner and was doing it different recording quality, I thought. And like you said, I mean, it's still King Diamond, still like it, but it certainly didn't have that grab that the early 3 did, A Fatal Portrait, Abigail, and Them. Those 3 I thought were fucking amazing, and it started to kind of decline after that.
And in 92, 93, pretty much all of Mercyful Fate got back together except for Kim Ruz. Kim Ruz just total retired from the music industry as far as playing. And to this day, as far as I know, he doesn't really do much as far as he may play like in cover bands or something like that, but he's had businesses. He was like a postal worker and basically your 9-to-5 guy. But in 93 they came out with the follow-up to Don't Break the Oath, which was In the Shadows, and that was pretty much 4/5 of Mercyful Fate. Everybody, it was King Diamond, Hank Sherman, Michael Denner, Timmy Hansen, and on drums was Snowy Shaw. Well, actually, on that album, it was Morton Nielsen was the drummer, and Snowy Shaw got the credit for it, but really didn't play on it. But they got back together. I actually saw them on tour during that tour, 92, 93.
I wished I would have. I didn't see any of that.
They actually played down the road from where I live, and I'm at a place called Tuxedo Junction, which was
that's
really
right.
weird.
That is right
weird.
off of
really
Wildman Street.
Yeah, they
Not too far.
They put on we were putting on hardcore and punk and metal shows for a while until the Ramones played one time, and shit just got torn up, and that was it. That was the end of that.
Yeah, I hate it when shit happens at venues like that. Like one bad time kills
Right.
it for fucking everybody.
CK threw a poser through a fucking plate glass window,
God
and the
damn
place
it,
went to hell.
I've most likely at that show. I don't remember anything really happening as far as so they would stop doing shows like that. But
Right.
something happened. I don't remember. But Mercyful Fate became pretty much a full-time band for a while. They put out In the Shadows. The next album, which was still pretty much 3/5 of the band. Tim Hansen left again during In the Shadows. Basically the touring thing, he couldn't really do it. No, as far as that goes, they put out Time, Into the Unknown, Dead Again, and finally 1999 9,
Right.
which, then King Diamond went back to the King Diamond stuff. And, it was just announced that, well, actually 2019 that Mercyful Fate was getting back together, which isn't really true because it's just King Diamond and Michael Denner, which is, Hank Sherman, which is a joke because Hank Sherman was the one
Who split
reason
them up?
why they originally split up.
Right.
I don't know what the deals they have with Michael Denner. I know Hank Sherman and Michael Denner had a project going where they put out an EP and an album a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a beef between them, if it's a beef between him and King Diamond. But basically it's, King Diamond, Hank Sherman, I forget the drummer. I forget who the other guitarist is. The bass player, which I believe would have been Tim Hansen if he was well,
Right.
because he was, obviously he was diagnosed with cancer at some point. I don't know what kind of cancer he had. They never even came out with what type of cancer he had.
I didn't see anything either.
But
Not the good kind.
Yeah.
Not the good kind.
There's
No. Yeah.
there's not a good kind of cancer, unfortunately.
Exactly.
But he would have been part of that. But they couldn't get any. They got a classy guy to replace him. They got Joey Vera from Arbor Fate's Warning.
Yeah, that's a really cool thing. I really would have loved to have seen that.
But I still don't consider it a Mercyful Fate reunion.
I don't either.
Okay, granted, Kimra's, you're not going to get Kimra's anyway. But you know what? When Tim Hansen died, I guess it really, because Tim Hansen died, in October of 2019?
Sounds right.
Around, either right before or right after Thanksgiving. He passed away from cancer.
Yeah, I believe so.
Which nobody really knew about until
It was
probably a couple months before, he passed away, that he had cancer.
Right.
So they kept it pretty quiet. But I know King Diamond, when he was playing with his band, he was so upset over the death after hearing it. The first shows after the first couple nights, he couldn't even go on and do an encore because he was
He was all fucked up about it.
yeah, he was all dicked up about it.
Yeah.
I mean,
And understandably so. I mean, man, he'd been with the guy since
that long.
the late 70s, early 80s. My God.
Right, and
dude.
I'm thinking, well, maybe it's time to fucking bury the hatchet, whatever you have going with Michael Denner.
Right.
At least get Michael Denner in the band. It is what it is with Kim Russ. He's not gonna tour. He's pretty much said, he's not gonna do it, from what I understand. And obviously, Tim Hansen passed away, so obviously he can't do it. And you got a great bass player in Joey Vera. Let's bury this shit. Let's at least get them a tour together.
It's unfortunate that's that kind of shit, but I mean, from my background, CK and Chris, you guys both know my first band. I understand, certain things happen, and it's very difficult for people to look beyond that.
Exactly.
I'm one of them. I mean, I hold a grudge. I'm very loyal to people I work with, but man, when somebody
But I understand
something.
why. I understand why you do, and if that's the case with what happened with you, it happened with them. Okay, I can understand.
right.
But
Yeah, and we don't know, so we have no idea if it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
a personal beef or if it's a money thing or if it's both or who knows. You know, it could be a lot of things.
Maybe one of them banged the other's old lady, and now it's like, "Fuck you, asshole."
It's very possible. It's very
No,
possible.
Honestly, it would be a possibility.
Anything's possible, right? But yeah, I mean, there are things that can be pretty extreme. Bands are like being married. You're so close with people that when
Right.
things go wrong, man, it
They
gets
go
pretty
wrong, yeah.
pretty bad. And I've been thankfully in low 12, we were pretty much drama free with any of that kind of nonsense, and it was really nice to have that long term band relationship with so many of the the guys that were there. But so it's unfortunate, like you said, CK, that they just can't go past that and get Michael Denner to come back and do some sort of legit reunion. That would be really cool.
And there's a lot of bands out there who they hate each other. And
Yeah.
it just came right out that David Lee Roth and Van Halen, they couldn't stand each other.
That's so crazy.
And the Ramones, a band like the Ramones, same thing. They were, it was a business, it was a job, and they're one of the few bands I got to say that when they played live, they weren't going through the motions. They put everything they had into the live show. But as far as them getting along, they couldn't stand each other.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that might be the point to where, maybe it is with them and Michael Denner, but, I would love to see him come back and get back together, at least those three.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, with Tim Hansen, he's passed, so he can't be there, but, we wanted to do this Brutal Rewind because of the passing of Tim Hansen, because he was such a great bass player. Like I said, very influential on me in the early days,
What was with
especially.
the eye patch thing when he first played with King Diamond?
I don't know.
I never understood that.
I don't know. I think it was just at that time, you had a
It
lot
was
of
just something for the show, I think.
Yeah, probably. I'm not aware of him having like a pink eye or something where he
No,
wanted to
because I
cover.
remember when I saw them
shit in your
live. When I saw them live when Megadeth was opening, I'm like, what's this eye patch shit?
Yeah, I'm not sure. As far as I know, it was more just for a look. But yeah, they went through like, I know when King Diamond first started, they went through little phases of wearing stuff that was a little showy compared to what most metal musicians were doing in the underground. So maybe it was the Danish thing. You have trends
Part of the show type of thing.
in different parts of the world that are a little off of the others. So to us, especially now, it looks funny. But at the time, maybe that was kind of the way it was.
The way it was
in
Denmark
Europe.
or whatever,
Who knows? But yeah, I'm not sure what his deal was with the eye patch.
He definitely influenced people.
Yeah, he's an amazing
his
player. He played with his fingers. I love that. Love the tone of his sound. I mean, I would have loved to have had the chance to really talk to him. I did meet him very briefly the very first time when I saw King Diamond. When I met King backstage, the band was all there, but they were in another room. And I remember standing at the entrance to that room and being very quickly introduced to them by their manager, but they were all drinking and laughing.
They were having a good fucking
They were
time.
talking amongst themselves, and I didn't want to be, a pain in the ass. Plus, I was going back to hang out with King Diamond, so I was like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so met him very briefly. I'm not sure if I shook his hand or not, but was in a couple of feet of him. And I'd always heard he was a very, very nice guy and just a tremendous player. I would have loved to have talked to him. I don't know if he spoke English very well, though, because a lot of the
I don't think in
bands
the
did not.
beginning they spoke their English, except for King Diamond wasn't wasn't anything spectacular. You know, they weren't fluid
Right.
in as far as the English language.
Right. So
And
it would have been
King
cool.
Diamond's, even King Diamond's band at this point aren't that fluid in English either. So
Right.
They speak Denmarkian.
Denmarkian.
the correct language would be Danish,
That's right.
Oh shit!
as
dumb.
in a cherry Danish.
That's right. Or the round fucking tin thing.
God damn it! I'm
Butter
so
cookies.
hungry.
What's a Danish? A Danish is a donut without holes.
Donut without holes. Hell yeah!
That's true. That's true. So yeah, I think it was cool to look back at King Diamond and Mercyful Fate, especially with the passing of Tim Hansen, just a great bass player, very influential, and obviously a big part of both of those bands until he wound up leaving for family reasons. But yeah, just a tremendous player. And you know, as much as you and I, CK, both love King Diamond and anything he's ever done, certainly no hard task for either of us to talk about him for a half hour.
No.
And share to the listeners that may not be as familiar, like Chris, not as into the stuff like we are. But you know, I listened to him back in 1984. Was when I first heard them, and love them still today. So one of the
Yeah, it
few
was the same-
bands I've listened
same
to
with
ever
me.
since.
No, like I said, it's either Mercyful Fate / King Diamond. It's either a love or hate. You either like him or you don't like him. I don't think there's too much in between
Right.
as far as people's taste with that.
Like I said, I'll listen to a couple songs every now and again, but after a minute, I'm just like, just fucking
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah, and it's not for everybody, that's for sure. The high falsetto stuff, depending on what your metal pedigree is and your background, may or may not be part of that. But for me and CK, of course, in the era we grew up
Right,
at, Rob Halford and some of the more high-pitched singers, it fits more along those lines. But King still does it in an extremely unique way.
Oh yeah, and he still does it, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Like still to this day does it, which is
Yeah.
fucking badass.
Yeah, because Chris or CK, he's got a new album I know coming out this year, which
Yeah, he's
pretty
got
pumped for it.
the what is it called? The Institution.
Yeah,
The first single, "The Masquerade," came out a couple months ago. And like I stated previously on other shows, I thought the album was done, but according to what I read, they're still recording it.
yeah, I think you're right.
But they promised it would come out this year.
That's awesome.
There's a part that's going to be the part 1. The part 2, I believe, will come out in 2021.
Awesome. Well, CK, anything else you'd like to add to this topic before we close this brutal rewind out?
No, just that we're actually doing this Sunday. Just this Friday, we found out the great Neil Peart passed away from cancer.
Yeah,
I've seen
very sad to see
So
that.
you know, another one taken from us from this fucking fuck disease that I fucking hate.
Yeah,
Obviously, you know, we have our reasons, but
right.
you
Just
know,
in
so
general, it's stupid.
yeah, I kind of was devastated by this one, but you know, next couple shows we're going to be doing a Rush segment.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, they're not really metal, but I certainly think that they were, you know, hard rock, obviously. But a lot of metalheads definitely dug on them.
Influenced the genre a lot as
Big
far as the
time.
progressive part of it.
Big time. Big time.
And Neil Peart, an iconic figure, you know. So
Yeah. Very sad to see that. Very sad to see any of these guys go. And like you said, CK, cancer touches you and I close.
Yeah.
We've both been battling it. I've been in remission now 19 years, but you're still battling it. So
I'm
it's
still after
a motherfucker.
After almost 7 years, I'm still going through this shit. And,
It's
you know,
incredible.
It is what it is. I've been lucky, so you know I get up every morning. I've
right.
had my issues, but right now I'm doing okay.
fuck yeah.
You know, so and it's kind of getting weird because like all the people that we grew up listening to are starting to pass away.
Right.
So our own mortality is starting to show a little.
It is. That's
sucks,
for
but-
sure.
You
That's
know, and
for
it's
sure.
and you still got the Rolling Stones still.
Right. Keith Richards
They're
still
like-
going strong.
Yeah,
man.
what
you know,
the
the
fuck?
fucking in the
Unbelievable.
late 70s, and they're fucking
Unbelievable.
and they're outlasting everybody. So who the fuck knows?
That's right.
Keith Richards and Betty White.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna close out this brutal rewind with an old one. CK, both of us love this shit. Little "Come to the Sabbath," and CK, good to chat with you.
Yeah, brother.
Close out this one with a little.
This is definitely fun.
Old
Definitely
Mercyful
fun,
Fate.
Yeah.
All right.
Take care.
Later, man.
Mother, man.